Hi humans, it's Zoe Leonard from Pauvre Voisin, and today we are continuing on my silly little series where I am explaining a chapter of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie in 5 minutes or less. So, chapter 12. The last couple of chapters were about arguing and why arguing is not a good idea, and chapter 12 is a continuation of that. So the title of chapter 12 is If You're Wrong, Admit It. That's tough for us to do. It's hard for us to admit when we're wrong. It's true. But the principle is, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. I'm not 100% sure what emphatically means, but I will look it up and I will put it at the bottom of this video. Again, this book was written in 1936, so some of the stuff is a little bit dated, and yeah, I don't know exactly what emphatically means. Probably like apologetically, but also like with humility, but I might be completely wrong. So I'm going to Google that and I'm not going to assume. So Carnegie has a really good statement in that chapter that I think sums it all up perfectly. And that statement is, by fighting, you never get enough. By yielding, you get more than you expected. So when it comes to arguing, because that's something that is really easy for all of us to fall into, yes, arguing, it's going to fracture your relationships with people, whether or not that is an interpersonal or a business relationship. But it's also very common, right? But what isn't common is being able to admit when you're wrong, being able to be empathetic towards the other person, being able to take a step out of your own mindset and away from your own ego. So that way you can have a constructive and collaborative discussion with somebody that ultimately it fosters empathy and it actually deepens a connection with somebody, whether or not that's interpersonally, but also business-wise. Having empathy, having humility, and being able to prioritize the actual situation at hand and respect for the other person over your own ego. When I say that deepens connections, I mean that it causes the other person to actually have respect for you more than they would have before you walked into that argument. And that is because it is rare. And it also demonstrates a level of self-awareness, of wisdom, of maturity, and of overall intelligence that ensures that other people trust that, especially in a business context, you are capable of making decisions logically, rationally, for the long-term good of your aims and beyond a place of ego, especially in a business context, because you don't want to be making any business choices from an irrational and emotionally charged place, which is what an egoic place is, right? So it's something that, I don't know, I'm really good at admitting when I'm wrong now. I didn't used to be as much when I was younger, but I've always, I don't know, personally, I haven't had that much of an ego when it comes to stuff. I definitely have an ego sometimes, but I think maybe because of the fact that like I'm an older sister, or because of the fact that like, I don't know, I like people as people. I've never personally felt like being wrong is something that demonstrates a lack of intelligence, or that demonstrates really any form of lack coming from me. And I think that is where a lot of people get stuck when it comes to being wrong, is if you think that you're wrong, you might think that it shows something about you, when like 99 times out of 100, being wrong, it shows nothing about you as a person, right? But we get really nervous, and that's where it's an ego perspective. We get really nervous that if we're wrong about something, it'll make us seem stupid. It'll make us seem immature. It'll make us seem like we're lesser than the other person, when that is so not the case. And the reason that by yielding, you actually get more than you expected. Before we talk about, and you know, we don't have time to talk about like the intricacies of personal relationships or whatever, but in any context, by yielding, you get more than you expected because of the fact that the other person respects you a lot more. And the other person respects you because of the fact that you have that humility, you have that empathy, you have that intelligence, you have that wisdom, all of the stuff that I said. And by actually being okay with being wrong and being like, wait a minute, I'm wrong. Let me fix this, or let me change my perspective, or you're right. Wait, okay, explain that to me better. It demonstrates that you actually have enough confidence in yourself and enough confidence in your intelligence and enough confidence in your skills, abilities, depending on whatever you're talking about, that you don't view being wrong as a reflection of who you are as a person. And that in and of itself causes people to gain so much respect for you. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm turning 27 in November, and something that I've really realized as I've become like an adult, obviously being in your 20s, it's still like toddlerhood of adulthood, right? Is that there are so many adults, so many really, really grown, way too old to not know better adults who behave like children, like children. It's crazy. It's actually really not common for people to be able to take feedback, to be able to take constructive criticism, to be able to be in that sort of learning mindset. And it's so interesting how rare it is, but it's that rarity in and of itself of being able to say, you know what, I'm wrong, but not just I'm wrong, but explain to me more. I don't know. There is so much respect that comes from being like, you know what, I don't know. I don't know enough to know, or I don't understand. Explain it to me. Because so many people aren't like that. And it's honestly really, really shocking how many people are not like that. But yeah, so in a nutshell, if you're wrong, admit it. Carnegie's very right. And don't worry about how you might seem if you're wrong. That is what I have to add to that. If you're wrong and you admit that you're wrong and you ask people to explain to you how to be right, people will actually gain a crazy amount of respect for you. And it will serve you really, really well in both your interpersonal relationships and in any form of business relationship that you have with anybody else. Okay. I hope that you guys enjoyed this little video on this chapter. I don't know if it's over 5 minutes, it might be. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for listening.